Hi, I've found this excellent article which has just come out. It's from the UC Observer, which stands for Uniting Church Observer. I'll give links as usual in the description box and in a comment box. I really recommend it. It is factual. It is comprehensive. Looks at the historical, the legal cover-ups within the Jehovah's Witnesses faith, particularly from Canada, but it does spread out further because it is actually an international problem. It's a great article to give to people who don't know and need to know, just really need to know a broad spectrum of facts. There's very, very good witness testimonies from people who went through it. Really, really good statements. What is really useful, this is something I didn't know, is there's someone who worked in the legal department at Canada headquarters, and he's got some things to really tell us. So we have this lovely lady pictured as the heading photo, Lisa. Now, she was sexually abused from age 10 months into early childhood. The issue of babies being abused is much more than people realize. Sadly, I know it's a difficult thing to comprehend. And then again, she was sexually abused at age 16. She told an elder of her congregation, and no one reported her abuse to the authorities. You're going to hear really many variations on that if you look at the article. Here we have someone else who's speaking out in the article. This is Edith Knox. She's a former witness, you can see there, and a survivor of sexual abuse. Now, she only recently found out that it was such a problem in the congregation, and she has tried to do something about it within the organization. They throw her out. So many people are being thrown out of the organization for speaking out. Look at her poster there. Great site, JW Facts. You've got a picture of one of the leaders giving evidence at he's the guy in the bottom right, at the Australian Commission, and she's talking about the two-witness rule. The article does go into the two-witness rule. It goes into the role of women in the organisation as well. This is something that was new to me. Now, Mark, this is a pseudonym. This is a really important part of it. Now, he was brought up a witness, very happy when in the early 80s he got a job at the head office in Canada, Bethel, Canada. So you can imagine how he's really gung-ho, and he was doing factory stuff, publishing the magazines and the books. But in 89, the same year, Mark started in legal, so he was in there, in the legal department. And he says that it wasn't until he got into that department he started learning about the child abuse issues. I feel that what he has to say is very important. At that same year, it's saying here that Watchtower sent out confidential letters to elders outlining how to handle legal issues, including child abuse. Many states have child abuse reporting laws, the letter reads. When elders receive reports of physical or sexual abuse of a child, they should contact the Society's legal department immediately. Victims of such abuse need to be protected from further danger. The instructions were short, but Mark says that before the letter, it was a, quote, Wild West. What? He says the elders were running these things pretty much as they saw fit. If they knew the guy and it was a good old boy, then it didn't go anywhere. The two-witness thing will be used as an excuse to sweep it under the rug. Mark will never forget the first phone call he took from an elder about a child being abused. I was appalled, says Mark. To think that somebody could do something like that to a child shocked me. And then the secondary shock was that this could happen within God's organisation. And a lot of people can, in the org, can understand that reaction. Mark quickly passed the elder off to a lawyer, but the inquiries kept coming. In the 3.5 years he spent in legal, Mark estimates he saw about 24 cases of childhood sexual abuse from across the country each year. He says a case file was opened with pertinent details, and whatever advice was given by the lawyers to the congregation was documented. He says of the records they kept of calls. A copy of that report was sent up to the branch committee, and then it was just a matter of providing legal advice and working with the service department, which is the group that coordinates all the spiritual advice to congregations. For these cases, it was usually a joint effort between the legal and the service departments. Mark points out that neither Bethel staff nor the elders had training in even the basics of abuse victim psychology. He didn't realise, quote, that survivors will still feel guilt, and that's not to be interpreted that they were complicit in it. Now this is very shocking what he says. He recalls a case where a woman started crying and apologising about the incident. Quote, we took that as a sign of guilt, that it was a consensual act. The case was dismissed simply because of that. I didn't know any better at the time. He says about half the callers were immediately told to call the police, and that one of the deciding factors about going to authorities was if the situation could come back to the Jehovah's Witnesses. Sometimes calling for the police was the better optic for the organisation. It wasn't always about what was in the best interests of the kids. What concerned Mark most was how elders dealt with the alleged abusers. Unless there were two witnesses, Mark says that at most the person might be marked, which means elders would keep an eye on him. Quote, so there are still abusers wandering the corridors of their kingdom halls with people not having any idea except their elders, end quote. Mark also remembers getting calls from survivors who weren't happy with how the elders processed their cases. They could appeal to Bethel, but Mark says judgments normally sided with the elders. The legal department would also remind survivors the most important thing is not to lose their faith and trust in Jehovah, that he will see that justice comes through. And then we have a picture of two people who will be very familiar to people that follow the videos on YouTube that give out good information on Watchtower. And here we have Christian and Katja, who have their lovely channel. I'll put a link to that. I'd imagine most of you know, but I'm sure there'll be some new people as well. I had not realised that Christian had been abused by an elder while he was a child. I am just so sorry to hear this, but you can see he's taken control. He is the representative plaintiff of the national class action that is seeking $66 million in compensation. So wow, that is a big thing, and he says that he later reported the incident to other church elders. The organisation didn't address it. So wow. They do talk to the lawyers who are in this article who are going ahead with this Canadian claim. The two claims, they do mention the two claims, which is great because not everyone knows about the two. Christina, it's a pseudonym, she talks about her abuse. Hers was perpetrated by a teenager, and the elders dismissed that because he wasn't an adult. She has now herself as an adult. She did try to pursue it through the authorities, did try to sort out why the elders didn't act. Watchtower did not discipline the elders, or didn't tell her of any internal inquiry or disciplining of those elders. The article even goes into the fact that one of the leaders, Stephen Lett, even gave a statement about Watchtower not being permissive towards pedophiles. So they quote him. Just for anyone again who is new to this, that is available on YouTube, and also you can see people's very, very robust responses to his statement, breaking it down and talking about what's really happening. The article also goes into detail about important letters that were sent to elders within, and it tells you the instructions that were given to elders at some different stages over time. It does go into the obviously the details of the Royal Commission, but breaks down very well the statistics of like how many people confessed, how many people were disfellowshipped, things like that. Very, very useful. It does have a quote as well from Watchtower Imbalance. You can make of that what you will. I'd be interested to know. So Melissa has come forward, another of the victims. So it's her father abusing, but he wouldn't do anything. It says here when her dad started to stalk and make advances on other women in the church, Melissa's mum finally sent him packing. Now here, this is honestly, this is classic. The elders threatened to disfellowship her. It would be because let me say it's unscriptural because to leave. Honestly, this is not isolated. This is how crazy it gets. Fortunately, though, her mother did appeal to Bethel, to the elders, and the organisation did agree with the separation. That's big of you. There was a huge legal thing went through. Melissa's dad had to go through a psychological assessment. Melissa and her siblings met with a therapist who recommended that the kids have no further contact with their father, even supervised. And yet when Melissa's mum left, separated from him, sent him away, she got threatened. Can you see? Can you see? There was a restraining order, and she's free. And as she says, the impact of abuse is a life sentence. And she does go into, the results, understandable results for her, cutting herself, feeling suicidal, and problem in relationships did lead to a breakdown, and she started seeing a trauma specialist. And thanks to their help, Melissa feels like she's doing much better now. And she does point to, and her father, he was disfellowshipped, by the way. He's since been reinstated. Many are, even if they are disfellowshipped, many are reinstated, and they do go back out on the doors. And as she points out, because people are perhaps interacting with community preaching, or even if they've been thrown out and no one knows about it, they're out there in your community. They're out there. And she says that's when we as Canadians need to step in. An important thing in the way that you can help, I've done this in past campaign things, we get people to submit a comment to articles that they find good. Thank the writer, thank the publication for bringing it out. You might want to put some facts or just a little sentence personal. You can do all this under a pseudonym. Okay, so you don't have to reveal who you are. So those who are fading and those who it will cause family problems, that's a good way to do things. So that's something very positive that anyone can do. Please share the article. Especially share it with people who just don't know, because it's laid out there. People who are in the process of waking up don't know yet. Great, comprehensive starting point. Thanks for your time, and all the best to everyone. Sorry, I did mean to say, very importantly, I do apologise, that if anyone has been affected by this, okay, do get help. There are free phone counselling numbers usually in countries. You can ring up anonymously, talk to your doctor, talk to someone who you trust and love, okay? And you don't have to say everything all at once. You can try out a few little sentences, test the water, and see what response you get back. That's often a safer way if you're feeling, because feelings are going to come up again probably, but it can also be a relief that someone believes you and there's someone to share it with. So lots of love to you. Bye for now.